Okay, we're on.
Yay, fantastic. How is everyone? Seems like this summer break is going a little faster than normal to me.
Okay, we're on.
Chuck, your hair, it looks so good.
It does.
You gave up.
No, I didn't give up. I followed directions. I did everything what my partner told me to do.
Looks awesome.
Chuck, your hair, it looks so good. It does.
Brant has had a haircut too, haven't you, Mr. Brant?
No, I didn't.
See?
I followed directions. I did everything what my partner told me to do.
It's awesome.
Oh, that's cool. Someone's got some feedback. I don't
Yeah,
think
where's
me.
it's like delayed 30 seconds. Maybe not 30.
Oh, that's cool. Someone's got some feedback.
I think
Yeah,
it's
where's
me.
it's
Hold
like
on.
delayed 30 seconds.
This is great. It's like listening to everybody in stereo.
Is it better now?
I think so.
I think it was my fault.
Give us
That
30
is
seconds.
Okay. All right. Well, we do have quorum, so we can go ahead and start and hope that we've got a few more who will join us. I'm pulling up my other screen here. So forgive me if I'm looking off to the side. I'm still at work and I have dual screens, so I swear I'm not ignoring. All right, may I please have a motion to call our meeting to order?
I make a motion that we start the meeting.
Fantastic. And do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you very much. I'm taking some notes too, since Nancy's not here just yet. And if all are okay with it, can we start? Anyone opposed? There's Nancy.
Is there
All right.
anyone else in the waiting room? Anybody trying to get in? That it seems like we have a lot of less people, but I can't track who else is not in there. I wonder if everybody's in the right spot.
Great question. I need to check my phone just in case anyone texts me. And check our emails just in case. All right, I'm good to go. I don't have anyone who sent anything to me. What about you, Danielle?
No, Kim
Okay.
just said that she's having trouble with her internet. But I don't have anybody that's lost. Although, yeah, okay.
That is fine. So don't forget, Miss Nancy, I'm going to help you with notes because you said you were having some sound issues. I don't know if Nancy can hear me. She's having sound issues. So now we've called our meeting to order. I sent a message over to Nancy and she said that there's no one who signed up to speak.
Hey guys.
Yeah.
If you click on the YouTube link on our website, it's going to last month's meeting, not this one.
Oh, no. How do we fix that?
That was my answer, Amy.
I don't know. I think you have to put a new link, maybe. I honestly don't know.
Let me,
We can pause for a minute and give you a
yeah,
moment
can we
to
just
try
pause for
and-
1 second and let me see if I can fix
yeah,
it?
that's easy. Absolutely. That actually gives me a second to make sure no one contacted us to speak.
I didn't even notice until I saw Chuck.
And you saw the old hair? That makes perfect sense.
Was I wearing the same shirt? I hate when that happens.
That's why.
Well, you know, we could add it to the minutes and just make little notes on what everyone's wearing. So that way we don't have those little faux pas, if that makes it easier. Not a problem.
Because the general community's not watching. I actually did that when I was in high school. I wrote down everything I wore each day so that I didn't repeat the
Really?
outfits too frequently. Because it was brutal back then, you know? You get
No,
made
this
fun
is
of
true.
for anything.
True.
So you have had your fashion game together forever, is what you're telling us. Nancy, how are your
I finally got sound,
issues?
y'all. I'm sorry.
Good. Yay. Are you good to do minutes tonight, Nancy?
Yes, I can.
Okie dokie. If you are having sound issues, I don't mind helping out with some of that if you need to, though.
I finally got sound.
It was that feedback.
And I said that several minutes ago. It's not in real time. It's not in real time.
That's okay. A little delay is fine as long as it's up there.
Who's in charge of bleeping us if we're
I'll get the minutes down.
We're going to put Nancy in charge of that.
What am I in charge of?
You have to bleep out. You're the one who's handling all the censor. Like in case
the
anything
what?
needs to be censored, bleeped. You know how they do those live award shows and they put it on a delay. So if there's any wardrobe malfunctions, they can edit it out really quick. So that's your job. How's it looking, Danielle?
Pretty good. He is fixing that right now. I just have one board member who doesn't have the link. I'm just gonna send it
Okay.
over to Lori Cadell in just one
Lovely.
second, and we'll be ready.
That's fine.
I can't even get sound and if I get sound and pictures coordinated, I'm doing well.
Well, it's okay if you need to either go off cam or you need to go out and come back in. I've done that a few times. And I'm taking another peek at something. And just FYI, Danielle, the packet A3 is not allowing us access. So you may need to share your screen for that one.
Okay, will do. And I think we are good to go.
Danielle, hi, it's Tony.
Hi, Tony.
Hi, guys.
I'm in.
Robin is trying to access the meeting, and she says it's continuing to spin, and it says it's waiting for the host to start.
I'm in.
Oh, there you are. Never mind.
Whew. After 5 tries, I got this.
There she is.
It is the evening for technology issues all the way around. Do not worry.
Good. Because I was like, all right, the host, they're just not gonna let me in. Now let me find my video. All right.
Yay.
Now I have a face.
Fantastic. All right, we'll just wait for your cue, Miss Danielle.
I think we're good to go. There's one member who hasn't joined yet, but she should be here any minute, and I'll just keep watching for her.
Okay, that sounds good. So one last time, not one last time, but trying again. Let's go ahead and do our approval of the minutes from our last meeting on June the 15th. Did everyone have a chance to take a peek at those, do a quick review? Are there any questions, concerns, comments on anything from the minutes on June 15th? All right, in that case, may I have a motion to approve the minutes for June 15th, 2021?
I make a motion to approve the minutes for June 15, 2021.
Fantastic. In a second. Fantastic. Thank you, Miss Amy. All those in favor of approving our minutes from June the 15th? Anyone opposed? Fantastic. Motion approved. We have our minutes approved. And Nancy, just to double check, did we have any visiting members who wanted to take a couple minutes to comment?
No, we do not.
Okay, no
And my
problem.
sound is delayed. I'm sorry.
You're good. You're good to go. In that case, let's go ahead and go over to Miss Robin. Oh, are you good? She's good. From Acadia, thank you so much for joining and being able to present a little bit on budget.
Okay. Good afternoon or evening.
No, we do not.
Okay.
No, I do not. What was that?
So I'm sorry to interrupt you, Robin. Can we just pause for 1 second because I'm getting a message that the YouTube link is not working.
Okay.
Just give me 1 more second, please. I'm sorry.
It's fine.
Just give me 1 more second.
Danielle, I just checked it. It is working. YouTube's working.
Yeah, it was working for me too.
Okay, fantastic. So just wanted to mention that we asked Robin from Acadia to come tonight because after we had some changeover in staffing, we wanted to make sure that everything was correct in our closeout of our budget. And so we asked Acadia to do an audit of our budget closeout. And we just wanted them to present that to you. And then also just talk to you a little bit about the audit they did on the budget that we presented to you that is for next year. So they're just going to provide you a little professional presentation and expert sort of analysis and give you that information. It's all good news. I just want to preface that. And Robin, you can take it away. Thank you.
Okay. Again, good evening. I wanted to first cover just kind of do an overview of the 2021 budget. I'm going to attempt to share my screen. It might not go the first round. If that's okay, is it okay if I share the screen? It says the host has to give me permission.
Okay, 1 second.
Okay.
Are you able to now?
Wow, I got a lot going on, don't I? Let's see, screen one. Let's try this. Share. And you tell me because I can't see it once I'm.
It's good.
Yep.
Okay. So basically, as you know, and I'll just kind of give you a brief overview of where you are right now with regards to the fiscal year 2021, June 30th. Keeping in mind that there's some transactions that can transpire in July and August until the audit's closed if there were pending items that have not A, collected revenue for, or B, paid out. So basically, this is the best scenario of what we project. But I just want to kind of give you kind of a twofold. At the top, you'll see fiscal year fund balance. So basically, that is every dime that you have held in the bank, carried over from year to year since the inception of the school when it opened, very first day. Last year, or you know, when you voted on 1920 or 2021's budget, the board had decided we're going to use the carryover proceeds to finish the projects, the parking lot and various items. And so of that, in the initial budget was like 720,000 and then some capital campaign. So just think in your mind, if you had a balanced budget of 0, you would have projected that you would end the year at 1.1 million per se. Right now, our net surplus deficit that we're showing is anticipated that you will have a deficit of 426. Now keep in mind, this is true expenses, does not count the carryover. It just kind of says, hey, we project that we're going to end the year spending 426,000 more than we collected. Again, knowing that you had planned on using last year's fund balance to cover some of those expenses. So in essence, you've come out with almost $300,000 to a better place than you were anticipating at the end of the year. So that's good news. And this also captures, this anticipated year end of 426 captures all the expenses that have not been paid. There's some outstanding construction bills that have transpired but have not been paid. There's projections like your accruals or utilities that we have paid through June, like say 15th, and we still have to pay the rest of the year. Some painting that has transpired that we have not got an invoice for. So there's various items that we have tried to capture, everything that we know of that still needs to be paid, as well as revenue that we know that the counties that have not paid yet. So we anticipate, to the best of the ability, that you'll have 1.4 million going into the 2021 budget year. So that's the summary for the best scenario that we can provide to end this fiscal year before we start discussing next year's anticipated projected budget analysis. Any questions?
Does this already include the Blue Clay property funds? Is that part of the anticipated? Okay. I saw some head nods that was a no to that question.
Yeah, I'm sorry that this does not include those funds. I was going to explain where those funds are later in my report, but since you've asked the question, I can answer it now if you like.
I'm totally fine if you want to continue that as part of your report.
Okay.
So basically, I don't know the process of voting to approve the presentation, or do you want to go forward into 21-22? You just let me know when you want me to discuss that next audit part.
I don't believe we have to vote on this. So unless Lakeisha, you tell me something different, I think we were just kind of looking at a summary of where we were.
I think you're correct.
Okay, so I think we're ready then to look at next year's budget.
Okay. 21-22. All right, so before I go in and discuss, it was my understanding that I guess the board had voted on a 21, and Danielle and Kim, you can kind of chime in if need be and correct me, but maybe it was presented and voted based on a previous presentation.
Yeah, so Robin, could you make your screen bigger and I will just explain that the budget was approved as a zero balance budget. And after we had some change in staffing, we asked Acadia to go back through and check it to make sure it was accurate. When they did that, we found that there were some issues in some of the formulas. And so we corrected those and went back to try to ensure that it's a balanced budget. And so what you're going to see tonight is corrected. And you will see that there'll be a deficit, but that deficit is a reflection of the money that was approved to come out of the fund balance to pay for the summer work. So that's already been board approved. So that is what you're going to be presented now. We thought it was important that since we revised it, that you see it again.
Is it large enough, Danielle, or is it too large?
I can't see the top, I don't think. I don't know. No.
Let me.
Yeah, I think you're okay.
How's that? Is that
Yep.
better? Okay.
Yep.
So basically, I just literally went down through and dove into every line, compared where we were at 6:30, making sure that based on, history, year-to-date trends, and again, keeping in mind that COVID kind of skews a lot of the numbers. So I even went back and said, all right, let me look at 1819, 1920, if I had questions. Basically, the three areas that we did adjust, and we tweaked some based on, like I said, the history, but the main areas that were changed, well, the largest one was your retirement. So the calculation that, and I know what they were trying to do, but the calculation was incorrect, upwards of like 200 and something thousand dollars. So basically I corrected that, and that was just an error in the formula that they put in. And then the other thing that we did was, and they can speak more, New Hanover had an increase, and so there is some bonuses as well as some step increases that are in there as well. And then we also, like Danielle had mentioned, the board approval of the summer care. So we went ahead and, or summer work. So we went ahead and put the additional expenses in the facility line. So you'll see those three notes to the right. Those are the main areas that were adjusted. So like Danielle had said, there's an $82,000 deficit, keeping in mind that the board had approved the summer work, which will be dipped into from the fund balance. So the fund balance revenue is not included in this. This was to me, a more clear picture to let the board know, hey, we're 81,000 in the hole, but the board approved X amount of dollars from fund balance to cover those additional expenses. Any questions on that, or?
I have a
Go ahead,
Sorry.
Sarah.
I have a question. I don't know now if you have the answer, now's a good time to ask it, but how does the fund balance spending this year compare to past years? I know some things changed because we have the parking lot, but did it look like, and you may not have gone this far, like, did we overspend? Did we overpull? Was it about the same? My concern is always that money's there for a reason, and we shouldn't just be spending it just, because it's sitting there. So I didn't know if you had any information.
I mean, I can get that information absolutely to the board. I did not pull it for this meeting, but typically, and the way I try to explain it is, like you said, you always want to build your contingency up. It's not for, I want to say a rainy day fund, but it's, in my mind, the only areas that would typically you would utilize it for is your, like you said, major projects. You're going to buy a building, you're going to do parking lot, you're going to do whatever. And then worst case scenario that you do have a drop in ADM and you have to truly dip in, but not just to cover your day-to-day operations. And that's never been the case with Cape Fear. This is just happens to be one of those where we knew, or the school knew, that they were going to utilize those funds to finish the project.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So other than correcting errors, have there been other changes made to the budget?
For this 21-22?
Yeah.
Just like onesies, twosies, like say, for example, if you thought you had advertising at, and I'm just using this number because I don't have the numbers in front of me, but 12,000, but you really needed 25 based on your history. I just wanted to make sure that you are in the trending area to go into the next fiscal year. So other than that, those were the largest areas, was increasing the revenue for the New Hanover increase, adding the projected bonus amounts, as well as the increases for, the step increases, and then the facilities, and then the error, of course.
Cool. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
What was the New Hanover increase?
It was around $400 per student. So when you look at the total revenue from that, it's around $130,000 approximately. And we have set that aside and are utilizing that to give not bonuses, but supplements to teachers. And then we also have increased our base rate for all of our staff to 15 an hour to be competitive with our teaching assistants. So all of that money is going to our staff.
Great, thank you.
And then one last thing to keep in mind, because this is just a, for lack of a better word, shot in the dark on paper. Because we do not know what the state is going to pay per child for state, for EC, and for the counties. But in the last 5 years, it has not dropped. So keep in mind that these revenue amounts are truly based on 2021 numbers and potentially should increase. But we want to be conservative and not just kind of do a step increase.
There's one other thing that I'd like, Robin, for you to possibly field questions about, but I wanted to just let you know that we were recently made aware that Acadia quarterly sends recommendations for adjusting the budget according to what's being spent and what's actual. And so if it's not adjusted, the numbers are not as useful in really understanding where you are in the budget. And those adjustments were not being made this year. And we're still in a really good place, and we figured out how to ensure that that does not happen again. But that is something that the board can decide whether they want to make those adjustments quarterly. Those are adjustments that you have to decide to make. Am I correct, Robin?
Yes, it's all based on your board policy and how you have it set up. But typically, the board has to decide, do I want to adjust it? The budget is the budget and not adjust it, and or adjust it. And my recommendation would be quarterly, but the board has to decide if that is something they want to vote on prior to the director or finance people making those changes. But here's my thinking, if it's okay to mention. The best practice to me, and from the history that we have, is, so now you're presenting this budget. This is the starting point for the school to start the fiscal year to the best of their ability. Then school starts, and then come November, which is typically when the state will determine your final ADM, you will also know what the dollar per child is. So November, December is the first time that it's the best time for the board to look at their budget and then make those adjustments truly to determine, do I need to make cuts, or do I need to increase, or where we are. And then the second time would be March, I'd say around March. And then the final adjustment would be May and June, once you can project truly what your expenses are and what is remaining owed. And that gives the board an idea of, here's the best of our ability, where we think we're going to end the year, to be able to do your budget April, May, to move into the next year, and build those trends. Without changing your budget throughout the year, the board would typically look at the budget and say, hey, based on current budget, I think I'm going to be in a surplus of, and I'll just use this, $400,000. But in reality, I've got, $295,000 in expenses that are over budget or overspent. So it's not an accurate reflection. So if you can adjust the budget accordingly, 3-4 times a year, it gives a more accurate picture of where you think you're going to be at the end.
So I'm not sure that this is something that you need to decide now, but I just wanted to make you aware of that. And it would be my recommendation for us to try to make it as accurate and transparent as possible, and to do what they're recommending quarterly.
Have we done that before? I don't think we have, but the finance part is not my strength. I'm not saying that's not a reason to do it. I'm just wondering if we have done that before or not.
In the past, prior to now, yes. budget changes were made, pretty regularly when prior people were handling it. Recommendations will be done quarterly from us, and it's just based on that, we'll do it in September, we'll do it in December, but if the board wants, and maybe half the problem is we always have dealt with the finance person, whomever it is, and at the school level, with the hopes that, those changes will be made. So I don't know if they were transferred to the board or not. So the other recommendation would be that the administration would give me tell me whom needs to get those reports, and then we will make sure that the appropriate people see it as well, so that we're going to be transparent in all areas and make sure that everybody's on the same page.
Okay, so that makes more sense. It sounds like maybe in the past, those adjustments were made and probably communicated, but there just wasn't a board vote about it necessarily. It sounds like that's how it has
Lakeisha.
gone. Mm-hmm.
Lakeisha, can you hear me? So my recollection in the past is that when the previous financial person would present at board meetings, that was noted. I mean, we would, Sarah, don't you remember that? So if anything was going to be adjusted, that would be presented to the board with the recommendation, and then the budget sheet would reflect where the adjustment was made. So we would always know when it was, when it was coming. I know as a part of admin, I always knew, on a quarterly basis, sort of where that was coming along or whatever. But my recollection is at board meetings, it was mentioned, but it was not something that was voted on that I remember, other than to just accept the report.
Okay.
I think it was, if it was something substantial that needed to change, the board needs to, that's one of our main tenets, is to make sure we're staying financially sound.
Right.
So it's, if it's a shifting a little bit, that makes sense. But if it's something large, then that's where more it's less just an FYI and more being accountable for it.
Exactly.
Right. Just say, please, legal, for an example. If you had a major lawsuit or something, and it was like, let's just say $75,000 that wasn't anticipated in the budget, that would truly be something that the board would need to say, I don't expect the school to take their operating money and try to, make these cuts, because that's the purpose, unfortunately, of a fund balance, to be able to cover those, unfortunate or unforeseen items that transpire. But it definitely would be the board vote.
Okay.
And those adjustments should probably come from the finance committee. They should probably go through that committee to then be presented to the board.
Right.
So this is maybe off topic, but are we still getting policies from a consulting firm?
Yes, that's part of my report too, where we are with that.
Good.
So I'll definitely talk about that. And we're gonna, during our board retreat, we're gonna be discussing the purpose and the functioning of the committees, and how that's gonna work, and how we're gonna make sure that's streamlined this year.
Great. Thank you.
Any additional questions on the 21-22? I know I'm still sharing the screen, so I didn't want to take over the.
I don't think so.
Okay, so my recommended, before we enter the budget, is if the board wants to approve this revised budget, then that's the budget that we will enter into the system to reflect in all the reports that we provide going forward until the next adjustment.
All right. If there's no other questions, then I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the revised 21-22 budget.
This is Tiffany. I'll make a motion to approve the revised 21-22 budget.
Fantastic. Do I have a
I'll
second?
second.
All right, all those in favor?
And I'm gonna-
Scanning, I've got all approved. Fantastic. All right, and no one opposed? Fantastic. Motion approved. We have a revised 21-22 school year budget that can now be entered. Thank you so much again for coming to present. It's great to have good friends at Acadia.
Well, you're very welcome, and we appreciate your business and look forward to many more years.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, everybody. Y'all have a great evening.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. Let's go ahead and jump into approval of our new hires. I did not see, unless I overlooked, the actual recommendation with the names and the positions.
I have that on the director's report. Do you want me to
Okay.
share my screen and show that?
Yes, please.
Okay. Can you see it?
You might want to make it bigger. It's very,
Okay, hold on.
minimized.
Let's see. Is that better? No, bigger. Let's see. 100. Is that better?
That's better for me.
Mhm.
I don't know if anyone else has got issues, but that helps me.
So
can-
these are the new hires since our last board meeting. You can see the names there and the position that they're filling. And so we have one 4-5 teacher, a behavior teacher assistant, human resources manager, and 2 other TAs for approval. Any questions?
Did you say all of the positions were full-time? Or did I?
No, they are not all
Okay.
full-time.
Okay,
In fact, only one of them is. Only the teaching position is full-time.
okay. All right, I have no questions. Does anyone else?
So I always
don't
wanna,
Go
just
ahead,
make
Tiffany.
sure that we have like justification for why these people were the best, most qualified person somewhere in a file. Got that? All right.
Yes, absolutely. We have, yeah, although we do need to continually revise our processes and practices, there is a very, followed practice right now of retaining all of the questions that we've asked, all the information, and how we came to decisions so that we have that retained.
Great. Thank you.
I have a quick question. How many people did you have on your panel this time around? I
Well,
know with the
each of
time
the
of year.
panels, I cannot probably give you a completely accurate answer to that question because each of those were different panels. So there was a panel for the 4-5 teacher, there's a panel for the behavior TA, and they ranged anywhere from 4 to 6 people, depending on the position. But what we did do was try to maintain those same people on the panel for that position. And it would also, the reason it would also vary is because we try to make sure that the people that were represented on the panel were the people that had the that needed to have the most input. So for example, making sure that we had somebody from the 4-5 loop interviewing for the 4-5 teacher that was going to join the loop, et cetera. So we were making sure that we had a good balance of perspectives on the panels.
Thanks, Danielle.
I was going to ask about the size of the applicant pools for some of these positions. I'm hoping that CFCI has a good reputation in the sense that there's a high number of applicants. Might be one way of sort of communicating that.
We have a large number of applicants for teachers and for TAs. The experience for the TAs varies greatly in the applicants, and you end up with everything from people who actually are certified as teachers who are applying for TA positions, all the way to people who really don't have any experience in schools. So you have a really large number, but not all of them are have the education and experience that you that we're looking for to try to have the most quality teaching assistants we can in the classroom. So when you're looking through them, there's a bulk, there's a quantity, but you know, you have to really comb through them to make sure that you're interviewing the selection of people that you want to be in the classroom. For the human resource manager position, we had less quantity, but we were asking for people who had a certain level of experience. We were asking for people who had 5 years of HR experience. So we had less people applying for that role, but we did have some excellent candidates that we interviewed for that.
And did you say that's a part-time position?
Yes, it's 20 hours a week.
And then are we going to have a part-time finance person? Likely.
Yes. So this might be something that I should have, I did not remember that we hadn't discussed this as a whole board. What we spoke with the executive committee about was the fact that, and this happened kind of quickly when we had the staffing change, we were faced with looking at that position that had been combined. So it had been a part-time HR and a part-time finance person before last year. And at some point at the end of last year, it was decided to try to combine that into a full-time job, even though those are two very distinct sets, and it was slightly over a full-time position because it was, 30 hours here and 25 here. So from my understanding, it was decided that we would do that for a year, and then at this time was the time to reevaluate and say, hey, did that work? And so when we had this turnover, we met with the executive committee and said, hey, listen, we're not sure that this is working so well. It's really hard to find one person who has the skill set and education and background of both finance and HR. And it was it's a tall ask in terms of the number of hours that it would take to fulfill both those roles. So we said, we do have a person who's been doing a lot of that finance already, and that was Ben Rose, who is in our front office. He's been managing a lot of the parts of the finance, and was already in a full-time role. He was in the front office, and so our thinking was, if he was open to continuing to do that piece of it, we could separate it out and then hire an HR person. So since we have Acadia that helps us with the finances, it makes it much more doable for Ben to pick up that piece and for us to then hire just a part-time person to do the HR. And if I missed anything, Kim, feel free to jump in.
The only thing I didn't hear, and I'm sorry, Danielle, my sound is going in and out. I apologize. It's just that we would hire a part-time person in the front office.
Oh, yes, I forgot to mention that. So, since Ben is going to become our oversee the finances and really take on that role and be the person that communicates with Acadia, we need somebody else in the front office, another part-time person in the front office. So we're going to have 2 part-time 29-hour people in the front office. And that is actually the only position that we have not filled yet. And we have a very large application pool for that job. We have about 110 applicants for that job, and we're going to be doing interviews for that this Thursday and Friday.
So does that mean a new part-time position was then created for that HR? Like Ben basically filled the full-time finance position and then we pulled out of it. So he took on some stuff and then a new part-time position was created for the HR? Is that?
No, so I should have presented to all of you. I do have this information graphically for you, but the basic idea is what we did was we took the salary of the full-time person and we divvied up that money and it comes out as an even wash. So we're not, even though we're creating a part-time position, we already had been in a full-time position. So he just kind of, we got rid of a full-time position and we created a half position, but Ben's position needed to have an increase in salary with his increased supervision of employees and his increase in responsibility. So we just divvied out that money so it didn't cause an increase in expenditure.
I have
And
one more question.
I'd be happy to send that chart to the board also.
Yeah, I think just position wise, since we have had a bunch of things shifted around, who's accountable to who with that, since that's a shift. The idea of him supervisory, I don't know. We don't necessarily have to get into that now, but that just was something different.
He's just overseeing the front office.
Okay. That makes sense.
He's overseeing the front office. He's going to continue to oversee enrollment, for example, and coordinate substitutes and oversee the work that happens in that front office. So that's what I mean when I say supervisory.
Awesome, Ben. Yeah, awesome, Ben. Yes, he is.
Sorry, Kim?
I was just going to add, Danielle, that if you look at it, like Daniel was saying, the money hasn't changed. We haven't increased our budget in terms of personnel. We've actually increased the capability, right? And we've gotten more specific. We really needed an HR person, and the person we've hired, Tasha, is amazing. And Ben, as you know, is going to be amazing in that position as well. And then just looking for that front office person. I think Danielle's described that perfectly. And then, you know, the other thing is that when you think about supervision or any of that, the people that are now in those roles, all of that is on our organizational chart, Sarah. So if you look at that chart, and Danielle, like she said, can send all of that out plus her own information, but that organizational chart has all been updated with this change. So as opposed to having coordinators across the top, specifically that HR finance person just has gone down over on the side. Danielle will supervise them directly, and it's just gone one next to the other. So they won't be in the same position necessarily as coordinators, but together we form that support team. But the job descriptions are very specific about what their roles are and who goes to who for what, if that makes sense.
So how long has this taken place? Has it been like within the last couple of weeks?
Yes, this just
Okay.
happened.
Okay.
And is the HR manager position a 12-month position?
It's a 12-month position. It is 20 hours a week, and we had to sort of figure out how to make that work. And so this person is going to have unpaid time that they take off when the school is, when there's non-pupil hours. So that we could make it work with 20 hours.
Okay.
So will there be any time built in to where there, an HR person is going to be available either before or after school to meet with teachers?
Yeah, she's very flexible. She's a lot of experience, and she's flexible in terms of, we said like right now, for example, she's coming in 9 to 2, but once we figure out what works for teachers, then we can adjust her schedule each day. I mean, I don't want to
Okay.
adjust her schedule every week, but we might say like on Mondays and Wednesdays, she's there till 4 or
Right.
4:30, and on
Yeah.
you know, Tuesdays and Thursdays, she comes in at 7, you know, whatever, however we want to work that, so
Okay.
that it works for teachers. We're going to figure that out together.
Good.
And when do we need to have their start date?
That's a good question. So, Kim, can you talk about the contract piece? Kim has been my HR assistant for the last 3 weeks.
We've had lots of great HR. Ben's been HR, Lisa's been HR.
We've been doing a lot of HR
Kelly's been
shuffling.
HR. Well, we're all about HR. What are you looking for contractually? What are you wondering about for
Well-
a start date?
Oh, she's not talking to me.
Oh, no,
No,
I'm
she
just
is.
wondering, I'm just wondering what people are looking at for a start date. I mean, depending on what the position is, like the TAs, Ben has already started. That would have been a July 1st start, pretty much. Tasha Campbell, starting this week. And then we're looking for the other piece. If you're just talking about that position specifically, we're looking for
Yes.
the front office for ASAP, hopefully in the
Okay.
next week to 2 weeks.
Okay. Well, if there are no other questions on the recommended new hires, I will ask for a vote. Making sure there's no other questions. Okay. So may I please have a motion to approve the 5 new hires presented in the director's report?
I'll make the motion that we approve the 5 new hires as listed and presented by Danielle View, the director.
Fantastic. Thank you. In a second.
I will second it, Chuck.
Thank you very much. All right. All those in favor? Let's see my hands. Great. No one opposed? Fantastic. Motion approved. We have 5 new hires. We will welcome aboard. Thank you. Thank you. All right, Miss Danielle, if you would like to continue with the rest of your director's report, we would love
Sure.
that.
Okay, so I would like to update you about a few things. I wanted to start with enrollment. Can you still see my screen okay?
Yes.
Okay, so this is data that we haven't traditionally looked at. I want to tell you that right now all of our seats are full, which is really good news, except for one. We have 1 8th grade seat pending right now. So we've really been on top of enrollment this summer. Thank you very much to our front office staff, Christine and Ben Rose. They've been doing an awesome job staying on top of it, making phone calls, making sure that our lottery system's working appropriately. And what I asked for, and I thought might be interesting data for us to look at in the future, and just kind of give you an idea of the kind of data we're keeping, is these are all the students. We had 17 students who unenrolled since our last board meeting, or over the summer since school stopped. So of these 17 students here, we just called them student A, student B, etc. You can see their grade level that they were in, and then the reason that they stated or didn't state for where they were going. And another piece of interesting information is that one of the students of those 17 went to a private school, 2 students went to a charter school, and the rest went to public schools. So this is the kind of information that could be helpful to us in the future, especially if we do an analysis of how many students do we have that transition each summer, if we do a comparison over the last 3 or 4 years and look at what grade levels is that happening in and where students are going. I think that can help us in looking at how we're supporting families and students and meeting the needs of the community. So I just wanted to make you aware of that's information we're collecting and that's an analysis that we plan on doing. Any questions on that?
I know in the
Are you
past,
also, I'm sorry, go ahead, Nancy.
sorry, I was just saying in the past, I know we've lost some going into middle school based on kids who want to participate in sports, and that we don't have the, the quantity or the opportunity for them to be able to do that. And so traditionally, that's something we've looked at 5th grade and even at 6th grade, when they realize that their friends that are in other schools are able to play basketball or whatever it is, and they decide to go ahead and make that switch.
I think that this data doesn't tell us that. And so
No,
if
it doesn't.
if we want to know that, we're going to have to look at more detailed exit interviews, which I think is a possibility. I do want to mention though, in terms of transition, this is really low. Like this is really excellent.
Right.
This is not a lot of kids at all for transitioning. So I think that this is a really good sign that people love the school and want to stay at the school. And so even if you look, you do have more kids leaving at 5th, 6th, 7th, right? But it's not a lot, really.
No, it's not.
So I feel like that's very encouraging news.
Will your data also include those students that we know are not coming back before the end of the school year? Like these numbers are just from the summer. So do you have that data as well?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I understand. Like anybody who from here until school starts?
Like these 17 students, I think you said have basically disenrolled since school ended.
Correct.
But before school ended, when we send out the announcements about the upcoming year, there might have been some students that their families decided, no, we're not coming back next year. So we knew before the end of the school year last year. So will those numbers also be added to this data?
I
well?
believe that this includes them because they couldn't,
Okay.
they could not officially, even if they notified us, they could not officially unenroll until the end of the school year.
Gotcha.
So this would include all of that. What this
Right.
won't include and will include later is anybody from here till school starts that has a change, like once school starts. But we
Gotcha.
will be able to give you that number. And the important number is, what is that number on the 20th day of school?
Right.
What does that number look like? And we'll definitely look at that.
And how
Did
is this
we-
data being collected? Like how,
So
yeah.
this is being collected through our front office that monitors our enrollment. So they get notification from the family. There's a form that they have to fill out to unenroll. Often they'll call the front office, talk to Ben or Christine, and verify, what is the process that we need to do. They provide them with the paperwork. They'll often have a conversation with them and then note what they hear them say, or this is one of the questions that's asked on the form for unenrolling.
Okay, so they are asked formally when they unenroll,
Yes.
and then they also kind of ask them informally.
Yes, because it's really important that we go through and get formal paperwork. Even if we hear that somebody is through the grapevine going to unenroll, we have to make sure that we have that formal paperwork before we actually unenroll a student, and then open it up for another student.
So that gets tracked through the Power School system, and you cannot enroll in another school until you have proof of unenrollment from your previous school.
Right.
So that's
Which is
not,
great.
yeah, it's not just something that we're doing as a school, but that's something that's universal. And I mean, I've taught in 4 different states, and it's been the same for the last 30 years in all the states I've ever been in.
Danielle, are the grades listed? Is that the grade they were in or the grade they were going to?
The grade they were in.
Okay. All right. That's what I thought. Just want to make sure.
Any other questions before I move on to facilities?
Did we lose anyone to homeschooling?
No.
Okay.
At least not that I know of.
Danielle, can I just say, we did lose kids to homeschooling over last year, right? Remember, we ended the year at like around 380, which was down like 28 kids, which was pretty significant. But remember, it was COVID. And,
Right.
And so the kids we lost to homeschooling were literally over the course of the year. So they withdrew
Okay.
during the year.
Okay.
Sorry.
Anything else before I go to facilities? Okay. All right. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit about the work that's been happening and where we're still trying to get the work to happen. So the outside of the building has been painted and it looks just beautiful. They really did an amazing, excellent job. And the front, the offices have been painted and they did a great job there too. And they did so well. You know, in the future, we'd love to do more work with them. Not only were they reasonably priced, but they did really a fantastic job. We are from some of the other work that needs to happen that has been approved already is the stairs that go up into the playground still need to be fixed. There's the sidewalk that's dangerous, the boardwalk that needs to be ripped up, 2 storage facilities, playground equipment installation, and there's some issues that need to be fixed on the gazebo, just kind of some boards that need to be fixed. There's one carpenter that we're waiting to get an estimate on all of it. He is able to actually build the storage units instead of us buying them. It's one of the things that he does. And so we're waiting to get a quote from him to see if he can do all of that work for us. And he was recommended by George Johnson, who's been managing the playground and parking lot renovation. On the playground, on the note of the playground, there were 3 additional trees that were removed so that we could have a soccer field and football field, et cetera, because there were 3 trees that were right in the middle that still hadn't been approved to be taken out, but we finally got permission, and so those came out. And if you happen to go by the school, you will see lots of weeds coming up everywhere. So we've been working with the landscaping company. They started spraying. They're going to get it all looking beautiful before school starts. And we need to amend our contract with them so that they are maintaining that playground regularly and the parking lot.
Is that going to be a substantial increase in the contract?
I don't know, but I don't think so. Yeah, I was kind of shocked actually about how affordable the contract was. But I don't have the number yet, but it seemed reasonable to me.
Good.
Having that available will make a huge difference as you drive up and look at the school as a whole.
Yes, I agree. Definitely needs. I think, just so you know, one of the issues with that project was that in order to manage the budget for the project, there was a decision made not to put down weed cloth before putting down the what do you call
The-
that?
The
The
mulch.
mulch. Thank you.
Mhm.
And therefore, you will see that we're having a growth problem. And, you know, that used to be a jungle. So it's even worse than if you just did it at your house without putting down a cloth. So that's an issue. And we think we can control the issue now this way. But in the future, if we're ever replacing that mulch, we really need to put down weed barriers, because that would really help with the maintenance and keeping that looking beautiful. Anything else before I move on to blue clay? Good to go? I
to
can't
go.
see everyone, so if anyone has something, you can just jump off. Oh, good to go.
You're good to go.
Okay, so yay, blue clay closed. Woo!
Yes.
It took a while, let me tell you. It was a stressful, like,
Sarah,
7 days.
can you remember how long it's been?
Woo! Like, so it was supposed to close last Friday, and it actually did not close until yesterday. There were just, you know, in and out issues with, not on our part at all. It was on the part of the seller. I mean, sorry, the other seller and the buyer. But it's all worked out now. That's the good news. And I opened up a separate account to put this money in until we decided what we wanted to do. So that money is $760,667.94 has been placed in a separate account. Also with the same, it's now called Truist. It was BB&T. So I just opened up another savings account line so that it didn't get mixed with the other money until we decide what to do with it. I'm also, though, going to move $55,000 that was part of the closing extension fees that are part of the sale. Those got mixed in with the other money, and I want to take them out and just move them over so that we know that the total money that we have from that sale is $815,667.94. So my plan is to leave it there temporarily until we have a discussion about how we want to utilize that money. I do have some information about paying off our current loan and mortgage versus, you know, planning on utilizing that money for facilities and things that we need to do. So that can be part of our discussion. We're not in any rush because currently the type of mortgage we have, we can't pay off more of the principal without a penalty right now. So there's no rush for us to do that. So we can decide in the next few months how we want to do this. Questions on that?
Are we getting, and I feel like we've talked about this, but I may have dreamt that. Are we getting advice from Acadia? Or is the finance committee getting advice from Acadia about just some very wise ways to go with that money?
So the advice is coming actually from our bank, from
Okay.
Charles Maddox and from his team. So I had a meeting with him and all the different financial people that he works with. So I had somebody talk to me about the option of CDs, about, you know, they hold our mortgage on the property we have now and the building. And so I discussed with them the idea of like, okay, what if we pay off part of this mortgage? What does that look like in terms of saving us money on interest and et cetera? And so I have that information. But again, that's advice just from one entity, even though there were 4 people in that mix giving advice. I think we should look at a couple different other opinions, and I'd like to involve Tiffany and Lori in that conversation and then bring it to the finance committee before then bringing that all back to the board.
I think also looping the faculty in on that is an important step just for buy-in and understanding and offering of different ideas too.
Sure.
I'll
And
just step
really,
in
really
and say, oh,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, that's okay. I'll just step in and say, like, I feel like this might be the most value I can add at this point. So I'd be more than happy to be involved in those conversations and even kind of run solo analysis. As this that's my background. So, just an unbiased, no one that can, I'm not making fees off of advice. So I'd be more than happy to be involved.
Oh, that would be wonderful. Thank you. Super helpful. And so we're going to move forward with that, in the next month and come back to you guys. Okay. Anything else on Blue Clay? Okay. So policy updates. Okay. So, it was approved and contracted with Platinum Business Solutions to redo our policies. So they have sent us a first draft. The first draft of policies is based on standard industry practice. It is not adapted for CFCI. They did add some things that we didn't have. They took out some things that they didn't think were appropriate for there. And now there's quite a bit of work to do in terms of looking at what do we have at CFCI. That's policy that supports our mission and vision and our shared leadership. And what are they recommending? This work's going to take a while. It's going to be over the course of the year with the PPRC committee. That's going to be the work that we do over the year. It is, I looked at the whole thing and it's a lot to look at and it's going to take us a bit, but it's going to be great when it's finally done. And Platinum Business Solutions is going to be giving us advice as we go. And eventually, when we have those policies updated, those policies will be reflected then in our teacher handbook and our policies. Any questions on that? Brings me to the website update. Am I going too fast?
Mm-mm.
Here we go. All right. So I am super, oh, sorry.
I just keep double checking and triple checking and like there's financial policies in that draft too, right?
Yeah, they took, what they did was they were instructed to give us what is charter school best practice for policies. And so that's what they gave us. They gave us every policy that they thought was best practice for the industry for charter schools. And so now what we have to do is go through them and figure out what kind of language needs to be added that supports our mission, vision, and shared leadership.
So did they look at what we have and say, my understanding, and it could have been wrong, is they were going to take a look at what we had and offer advice and say, you may want to reconsider this, or did they just give us a binder with policies that we could have printed? Not to simplify the work, but I just want to make sure I understood how it rolled out.
Yes. So I had a conversation for the first time with the person who runs this company. I wasn't in on the beginning of this contract. When I first spoke with her a couple weeks ago, when she had already done the first draft, she explained to me that there were two options given to us as a school. One option was to give us standard best practice for the industry. The other option was to actually take our policies and revise them. She was directed to give us standard best practice for the industry. So that's what she has provided. She has not gone through ours and revised the ones that we have existing. She's deleted some, she's added some that weren't there, but she hasn't made them align.
Are they going to consult? So you said they'll be with us. That's too bad that that's the direction they went, but they're going to consult with us, because basically, yeah, there's going to need to be we don't fit a basic policy of what it is. So the work is going to be coming from that committee then, with this
Mhm.
person consulting on us. And just, I'm assuming this is right, but anything that's been deleted is not permanently deleted. That's just their draft deletion. We have not gotten rid of policies that are standing now. Is that correct?
No, I mean, she
Okay.
gave us a draft and she said these
Okay.
things should not be in there. And
Okay.
the work now is figuring out with their assistance, why, like, why shouldn't that be in there?
Okay.
And making sure that we have, again, policies that are CFCI. Because I agree with you, like, we can't just have, one size fits all policies. They have to support what we're doing and the work that we do. So that it's gonna be the work of the PPRC committee is gonna have, a lot of great discussions this year around this.
Okay.
Okay, so
One more thing I was gonna say, so we do have like a shared leadership charter school that we have a good relationship with. Is there a possibility of asking them to show us their policies that we could potentially adapt the ones that came from this consultant to include with the language from our colleagues at other schools?
I think it's a possibility, but I don't know how helpful that would be, because again, there's no school that's going to have the exact same functioning vision mission as CFCI. So it could be helpful as another resource, but it still would need to be adapted. So whether we start with the one they gave us and we try to adapt it, or we start with somebody else's and try to adapt it, we could use them both as a resource. I think that's a good idea. If we can find a school that we think is aligned enough that we could look at their policies.
It would probably be best, I would, just in my opinion, if that occurred, to choose a school that was not local. Because unfortunately, there becomes this back and forth discussion out in community sometimes about schools and pitting one against another. We've seen that before. And so I would hate for there to be something out in our community that says we now went to an XYZ charter school and asked for their policies and procedures to compare and look at whether ours are, and people are going to interject good enough or accurate enough or similar or dissimilar. You know how it goes. So I just think we have to be careful when we're looking to do that type of thing.
The other update is on the website. So we're working with Elite Marketing. It is a local company that the committee selected, and they're doing fantastic. They have, our committee went through and gave them sort of like overall navigation, and then they have set up a dummy site, like a development site for us to look at. And I wonder if I could pull it up for you. Ah, look, can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, so obviously this will be a real photo of our kids, but this gives you an idea of the redesign. And the information in here, this is the work now, right? Is going to be us figuring out what we want here, but this is the layout that they're looking at. And I think it's going to be just great. And so what they did was they lifted a lot of stuff that we had, but now the work is going back and figuring out what we want to live everywhere in the site and what's most important to us. And what things do we want to maybe take off here? And really, like, what's our call to action on that first page that comes up? What's going to make people really understand who we are? So it just gives you an idea of the work that they're doing right now. So lots more work to do, but I'm really excited with them. They're really responsive and trying to do the very best work they can for us.
Looks good.
Awesome. Any questions on that?
I don't have any questions, but I went and played around in this kind of like the dummy site, and it looks pretty cool. It's very user friendly. This draft of it is, so I'm excited to see their finished product.
Yeah. Me too.
It's got some of our real stuff already in it, like our calendar and a couple of our pictures from our school already. So this looks good so far.
Awesome. Okay, let me just, I'm trying to.
Who was the
navigate-
committee? You said the committee, but I didn't know if that was
There
admin
was like
team
an
or,
ad hoc
okay,
marketing committee that was formed. So we brought all of the different bids for the websites went to them.
gotcha.
And then, sorry. And then eventually we went and chose this local company.
Nice.
Okay, do you want me to, should I go back to sharing again? Is that better? There's only two more things on my end here. 1 second. Here we go. Okay. So just a reminder, the board retreat is going to be August 3rd. We're going to do lunch. It's going to be 10 to 2. We're going to do it at the school. And a detailed agenda will go out shortly. The things that we discussed that we're going to be able to accomplish in those 4 hours, we're going to start with an understanding the story of CFCI so that we all understand where the school came from. Review roles and responsibilities, develop a shared understanding of the purpose and the functioning and decision-making process of the committees, review the prioritized goals of the strategic plan, and then develop an initial draft of long-term goals, like 5 to 10 years out. What are some dream things that we want to start planning for in the future?
So we decided not to do a doodle poll. That's just the date that was decided on.
Yeah, there was reasons for that, but I don't remember why. Does that not work? Is that not working?
Yeah, I'm on vacation then.
No.
I don't know if other people are available.
I have
Maybe
a-
it was that we talked about it being close to when the teachers are coming back. Seems like that was part of the rationale there
Yeah,
because
the teachers
are
coming
back in the
on
building
5th.
that week.
Yeah. So we were trying to pick a date that didn't interfere with that, but wasn't in the middle of their summer. Anything else on that before we talk about planning for next year? The last topic is looking at COVID ad hoc and what's coming up with that. So I'm sure you're aware that we don't yet know where what's going to be the requirement from North Carolina. We've seen some guidance from the CDC. We've seen some other guidance that came out from the American Pediatric Association yesterday. And really what we need to do as a COVID ad hoc committee is meet and talk about, well, if we have a choice, because it does appear that that might be the possibility. It's leaning towards probably the governor saying that districts can make their own choice about whether to require masks or not. And so the ad hoc committee is going to meet on Thursday to start discussing this and start saying, okay, well, if we do have a choice, what is this going to look like? What will our student and staff safety procedures be this year? How will we do diagnostic testing? What will our vaccine requirements and communication be? And what will our return to work or employee leave policies be this year? Those are the things that we really need to consider going forward. We did apply through the state. They put out the opportunity for schools to apply for funding for doing COVID diagnostic testing. And they also put out funding, grant applications for having a school nurse. So we put that in. It's due by September 13th. So there's a possibility that we might get funding for a school nurse. And there's a possibility that we might get funding to support any type of diagnostic testing that we want to offer at the school.
Is that for a full-time school nurse? Okay.
Yes, they're prioritizing. There's about I think I read $300 million that is allocated for schools to be able to have full-time school nurses. They are prioritizing schools that don't have one, that don't have a full-time nurse. So I feel like we might actually be able to get one this way. It's temporary. It might not be funded permanently, but at least for next year, it would be fantastic if we could have a full-time nurse.
Sure, that's great.
The only thing that's been communicated to families so far is we really want to go back to as much of normal school functioning as possible. We're going back to a normal calendar, normal school day. The other policies and procedures, we've said, listen, we can't say right now because we haven't been given all of the guidance that we need from the state. But now we're going to start this conversation so that as soon as we do know what it is, we have a plan.
It's good.
And that's it for me. Any other questions for me? I'm going to stop sharing now.
I don't think I have any other questions, but going back to board retreat a little bit, since it is going to be August 3rd, just a couple of things. I can't remember if we talked about this already or not, but I don't believe we did. Since our board retreat, we moved it from July to August. Is this going to take the place of that August board meeting?
I do not believe so because of the fact that this is not, well, maybe Kim, you can help me, but I don't think this counts as a regular board meeting because we're not doing the regular business of the board during that meeting. This is a retreat where we're doing like big picture, long-term planning and understanding. And I don't think that it's also recorded and publicized. Is that correct, Kim?
That's right. And remember, if you remember, I think last year we did the board retreat and then did the meeting that
The board
evening.
meeting.
So we
And I
just
guess
did-
that's really that's how I should have phrased it. Do we want to do it the same day or just keep it separate just to break it up and not have quite such a long day?
I would think keeping the board meeting on the regularly scheduled date is probably the best avenue for, particularly for people in the community or parents who might want to plug into that. Consistency is usually so important when it comes to participation of that type.
Makes sense. Anybody else? Awesome. And then my next thing, Tiffany, I know we talked about in the last meeting, you offering a little piece to the retreat. So if you're going to be on vacation that week, maybe think about if you want to try and do that as part of a board meeting later. It doesn't have to be in August. I mean, that I'm totally open to leaving that in your hands, but just something to think about if you wanted to make that part of your availability to squeeze that in sometime. But like I said, don't have to commit to anything right now, just something to think about.
Sure, we can talk about that offline.
Awesome. Yay, well, that was all that I had on anything. Did anyone have anything else they wanted to either ask a question about, talk about in our August meeting? Anything that they want to add to the agenda for next month? Fantastic. Well, I feel like we should have a moment of silence for Blue Clay. It's been with us all these years and now it's finally,
My
on.
goodness.
it's like,
No, I think we need to have just a field trip. We can all go out, put on high heels and go walking through them. The concrete.
Wasn't
okay
it-
with that too.
The rhyme of the Ancient Mariner with the albatross. Wasn't that
Yeah.
where like the albatross is around the neck forever? We have been released from that.
Amen. I tell you.
Amen, amen. All right. If there's nothing else this evening, my friends, I'd love to have a motion to adjourn.
I
Not all
moved
at
it
once.
during the meeting.
And a second.
I'll second.
Fantastic. All right. All those in favor? All right. In that spirit of things, have a wonderful evening, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the summer. See you later.
Thank
Night.
you.